We've got two rolling baseball teams. We will get to the Yankees a little bit later on, including another lockdown performance by the great Max Fried, another bomb by Aaron Judge, another scintillating New York Mets comeback as they continue to play wonderful baseball. But I'm very upset about something, and I'm going to do a couple of deep breaths. I'm going to try not to scream. I'm just going to try to talk very passionately about this. I am so bothered by literally this one opinion that I have heard regurgitated on this radio station all day and last night. And every host has said it. So it's everybody. Like, it's Big Mac, it's G, it's Sal, it's Brandon, and it's even you, Teak. You're a part of this. And it bothers me. And I obviously am not a Knick fan. We all know that. Coalition of Knick haters.
The coalition of losers can kiss my ass.
Well, that was random. But I also try to call it like it is. And I am getting so sick and tired of hearing, as if it's just a fact, the Knicks don't have a plan. The Knicks don't have a plan. It's BS. Like, guys, settle down for a second. They decided to fire their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. They decided to fire their head coach probably because a lot of the players were done playing for him. Probably because Leon Rose determined this is as far as we can go with them. Most of the time, when you then look for another head coach, it isn't just straight line. Like, oh, we fired him. This is who we want. Let's go get him. Usually, there's a search. There's a wide search. And sometimes you get rejected on your top-tier targets. That doesn't mean you don't have a plan. I believe the Knicks do have a plan. And you don't want to know what my evidence is, ladies and gentlemen? Your team president's done a pretty damn freaking good job. I don't think he fired Tom Thibodeau and left his pants down and has no idea what he's doing. The idea that three different franchises, rightfully so, turned down the Knicks' bids to hire a coach who has a contract doesn't mean the Knicks are a circus. It doesn't mean they're clueless. It doesn't mean they're without a plan. It doesn't mean this is Isaiah Thomas all over again. You guys, and it's literally every one of you, have to take a deep breath and calm the F down. And it's amazing that I'm going to have to be the one to do it.
Then why are you getting all worked up about
Because it bothers me that
why
people
does it bother you?
Because
I'm calm just saying they don't have a plan.
Did you not hear what I just said?
I did. But I'm not upset about it.
Why don't you think they have a plan?
I'm not screaming from the hilltops that the Knicks are a terrible franchise. I'm just saying, right now, it doesn't feel like they know where they're going with their head coaching decision.
I haven't raised my voice. I'm calm.
If they're comfortable with that, they're comfortable with that. I'm just stating a fact. I'm not a fan like Loogie's a fan. I'm not bothered by this. I'm not aggrieved. I'm not moved. I'm not taking joy as a coalition member that all of you all happen to be. I'm just stating a simple fact.
What's the fact?
That they seemingly don't have a plan.
Seemingly. So now we're going to go to seemingly.
Yes.
What makes you seemingly think they don't have a plan?
Because they reach out to, or at least the reports that we hear are that they're reaching out to this guy. They really like Jason Kidd. Oh, they really like this guy. They really like this guy. Even guys that we didn't know they were thinking about, they were employed by other teams, they're reaching out to. And look, I get it. It's just feelers. It's just throwing a whatever against the wall. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you do get a chance to interview one of those guys and perhaps steal him from someplace else. But it doesn't feel like a philosophy that's a winning one. If you're trying to find the best coach to take a team that has been consistently in the playoffs, last year was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and has had multiple players come there and get better over time. And so now you're likely going to find someone who's not your first choice.
Okay.
Now, is that terminal? No. But I'm just saying, doesn't feel like they have a plan. I'm not mad about it. I'm just stating the fact.
Okay, well, I'm not mad about it. I think you're dead wrong. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, and you're saying it, and everybody's saying it. They don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. Did the Jets have a plan? Because Mike Vrabel said no, they didn't have a plan? They didn't get their first choice. A lot of times you don't get your first choice.
Of course you don't.
That's life. That's sports. You don't get your first choice. So I'll walk you through the plan since everybody seems to be so freaking confused about the New York Knicks. Here's your plan. They realized, rightfully so in my opinion, that Tom Thibodeau ain't it.
Yes.
They realized that. Now, we've been fighting about this for a week and a half. Some agree, some disagree, whatever. Leon Rose determined by listening to his players, he ain't it. So they moved on from the head coach.
Yes.
So now Leon Rose is sitting in a boardroom with Worldwide West, James Dolan's there, other Knicks executives, and they're putting on a chalkboard, okay, Let's put our dream options. Let's put all the different targets we'll have. So where do you start? You start at the top. You start at guys who already have jobs. You start with a guy like Chris Finch, who's coached the Minnesota Timberwolves to back-to-back Western Conference Finals. Good place to start.
Right.
Maybe we even start with Loogie's guy, Eric Spoelstra, and you realize, okay, not going to happen, but we have him on the list. We're going to start with Jason Kidd. We talked to him a few years ago. We really like Jason Kidd. Jalen's got a good relationship with him. And you have your top-tier guys, and you try. And you know it's a long shot. You know it's a long shot because teams, let me break news to everybody, they don't like the Knicks. Specifically, they don't like the owner. The owner is suing another team in this league, the Toronto Raptors. Like, James Dolan's not Mr. Popularity. So there's a really good chance that team owners are going to say, F you, we're not going to help you out. And I think Leon knows that.
Right.
So you go for the gusto, you take your big swings, and then you move on to option twos, which may include a guy like Mike Brown, which may include a guy like Taylor Jenkins, which may include a guy like Johnny Bryant. There are tiers to your search. Because you don't immediately get your top guy, for all of us to assume, oh, well, that means they don't have a plan, I think is ridiculous. I think it's not giving Leon Rose and this organization enough credit. And I cannot express in respectful words enough how much I vehemently disagree with every single person who says it. And I don't like the Knicks. I'm not rooting for you, but I'm being honest. Like, continuing to say this as if it's true? Why? Because you're angry? Because you're all pissed off? Because you didn't want to fire Tom Thibodeau? Because you were dreaming about trading for whomever?
By the way,
that doesn't mean they don't have a plan.
By the way, none of those are my scenarios of why I'm stating they don't have a plan. I'm just stating a fact.
What's the fact? Tell me again why they don't have a plan.
I think they don't have a plan.
Why?
Because it seems like everyone they're going after is unavailable to them.
That's the top tier.
Of course it is.
Okay, so that means they don't have a plan because they didn't get their top tier guys?
No, but Evan, come on, man. You have a team that's ready to win a championship.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring in some Johnny-come hopeful at 33 years old that might be the next great head coach in basketball, you're doing a disservice not only to the fan base, but to that group of players who have bettered themselves over the last 3 or 4 years. And so I hear what you're saying. I understand why you're feeling angst about people taking shots at Leon Rose and the New York Knicks. But the reality is when you have a team that's baked and ready to be a championship viable organization, you have to hire a competent coach. And I don't know if the Knicks have a plan for a competent coach. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't bother me because
I want to counter your specific point,
because if they don't and they hire some dud and they end up falling apart, guess what? You made your bed. You sleep in it. It's fine. I'm not mad about it. Lukey might be mad about it. Sal might be mad about it. Everybody else might be mad about it. But I am maybe the only independent sports observer in this entire station, WFAN.
You're trying to say I'm a hater?
No, I'm just saying I ultimately don't care. Right? I analyze things. I look at it from a pragmatic standpoint. And when I look at where the Knicks are and where they have been for the last 3 years, they're a team that should be getting to NBA finals and competing to win them. They're not. Thibodeau was clearly at his ceiling. But now that you've fired him, you can't just say, let's just kind of see if it works with whoever we find. Right? You got to have an idea of what you were going to do before you fired Tom Thibodeau.
I think they did have an idea. Their idea is Thibs isn't the guy. Let's go find a guy who can maximize this talent better than him. Okay. And I want to use your words. You said it's a disservice to hire somebody who you don't even know if they're a really good head coach.
Right.
What do you think, since you're pragmatic about this, and I'm going to lay it out as fairly as I can, and you tell me, what do you think's a bigger disservice? Hiring someone who's young, maybe inexperienced, you have no idea what kind of coach he is. We'll call him Johnny Bryant.
Right.
Is that a bigger disservice, or bringing Gaia back that the players basically told you they can't play for anymore? What's a bigger disservice?
It's clearly the latter.
So then the latter, which means keeping Tom Thibodeau would have been a bigger disservice, right?
Evan, I've been saying to fire Tom Thibodeau for 3 years. You played the audio of it way back from 20, whatever it was.
So then that's enough for their
22.
plan. They moved on from a coach they know they can't win with, and now they're casting a wide net to find his replacement.
But we always have this cliche, this idiom that comes up when we talk about firing or getting rid of somebody. All right, great. Then what?
Yeah.
So my question is, what's the then what?
They're working on it.
Okay.
You really, after a week and a half, says
the draft is 2 weeks away. Free agency is happening now. You're already starting to hear these things. So they're going to make these I think, somewhat important decisions. Are you moving on from Cat? Are you trying to trade him? Are you doing all these things without having a head coach who's signing off or buying into it?
Hold on. When were they supposed to hire the coach?
Or are you just going to dictate?
No, when were they supposed to hire the coach? They fired him 2 days after the Eastern Conference Finals. You agree with it, okay?
Yeah, of course.
So now they have to rush job to hire a coach?
Look, they're penalized because they made it deep into the postseason. Like, if they had fired their coach after the regular season was over, like teams that didn't make the postseason, you'd probably have a coach by now, right? They're penalized, and because they went so deep into the postseason.
Exactly. So what's the issue?
There isn't an issue.
No. You're telling me they're doing disservices, that they don't have a plan. They have a plan. They're interviewing
The disservice
guys.
is not firing the coach. The disservice is not being having a short time frame. The disservice would be hiring someone who's not capable of coaching this already coalesced group of players for this Knicks team. That's all I'm saying. Right? And if they hire somebody who's completely incompetent, we're all going to sit here and say, well, you probably should have stuck with Thibodeau. Now, I don't think that was going to work either. But, I mean, they're until they find that right coach, and we won't know this, by the way, until the end of next season.
Of course, we got to see the guy coach.
We got to see the guy coach. We got to see what the results are. We got to see if he meshes with this group of players, some of them stars in New York. Or we're going to say, you know what? They misstepped.
Of course.
And I get it. This is what Leon Rose does. He takes risk. And you have to take risk. Otherwise, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
But
You're just going to sit here and be average forever?
But Teak, do you see the point where I don't understand why people are getting so nuts? They fired a coach.
I'm not nuts.
No. They have a plan. You keep saying they don't have a plan. They do have a plan. It's pretty obvious. They fired the coach. Their first bid to replace him is to go to the top of the line.
Right.
So they go to guys who currently have jobs. Chris Finch has done a great job in Minnesota. They tried. Ime Udoka did a great job in Boston. Has done a great job in Houston. They tried. Mm-hmm. To no surprise, those teams said no. I'm still skeptical that the kid thing is dead.
Everybody who has a coach under contract is going to say no.
I agree with you. I think other than the coach himself really applying pressure on the organization.
And that's not going to happen.
I think it could happen with Dallas. We'll see. Look, my point is it could happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but they tried to get 3 active coaches. They probably knew we're probably not getting them, but we're going to try. That's step one. Mm-hmm. And people are reacting to this like they have no plan. This is the early 2000s. That's the part that bothers me. Because now, okay, they didn't get those guys. They're going to go to step 2. They'll probably interview Taylor Jenkins, who you like.
Yeah.
They'll interview Mike Brown, who some like. They'll interview Johnny Bryant, who I like. That is a plan. Why are people so confused? Because you didn't get what you wanted immediately? Like, yeah, they didn't know who their head coach was going to be once they fired Tom Thibodeau, but they were going to go through a search.
I think it's less about who you wanted to get immediately. It's more of this is who was perfect to coach this team. And
who?
I don't know.
Well, that's what the Knicks are trying to do. They're searching for a coach.
Yes, but you fired your coach without knowing who that person is.
Most times when you fire a coach, Teak, you don't know who the replacement is. You go through a search.
No, because most teams that make it to the Eastern Conference frickin' Finals don't fire their coach, Evan. That's the point. That's what you and your measured IBO-ness is missing.
Well, how many times do the players basically tell in exit meetings, we can't play for him? How often does that happen, Teak?
I don't know.
So then how is it such an outlier?
The last time we saw this, the Toronto Raptors fired their head coach, and he was amazing.
Yes.
They knew exactly who they were hiring.
Okay. They promoted someone on their staff. And
exactly. They knew exactly who they were hiring. A team that gets this far, if they're going to fire their coach, Evan, they have to know exactly who they're hiring. This is what I'm saying.
Did the Warriors know exactly who they were hiring when they fired Mark Jackson?
No, but Mark
Jackson. They did a search.
But Mark Jackson's situation was far different than Tom Thibodeau.
And the Knicks situation is far different than any other example you want to come up with. Their players basically said in an exit interview, we can't play for him. I think every situation is different.
We're speculating about that.
That's what's being reported.
That's what's being reported, but we all know that, we also report that they really love Jason Kidd, right? I think
they do like Jason Kidd.
By the way, I find it hard to believe any New York Knicks report because for the last 3 years, we've heard oogats from inside the Knicks.
But why do you think they fired Tom Thibodeau?
And then all of a sudden, because he's limited. Like, I don't think we have to listen to reports that the players hated him to know that Tom Thibodeau was likely to get fired.
So then what's wrong with them firing him? You agree with the firing. So why are you mad at me for suggesting it?
Because when you fire your head coach, when you're in the Eastern Conference Finals, Evan, you better have a plan.
They do have a plan.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. They just don't have the exact person.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You just said what I'm trying to say. They need... If you're going to fire your head coach, you better know who you're hiring.
Well, hold on.
When you're that good. Tell me when it's happened. Don't give me the Mark Jackson nonsense, because Mark Jackson was a hypocritical piece of you-know-what, and everybody knew it. They had to fire him. They had to, right? From a cultural, organizational standpoint, they had to. Steve Kerr was perfectly in line for them to pick up the mantle and go win some championships. The Knicks decide to fire Tom Thibodeau after losing the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, when you're that deep, your time frame is tight, like infinitesimally tight.
Right.
You better have a plan. And they don't have a plan on an individual. Evan, they don't have a plan on a specific individual. I'm not saying they don't have a plan, but they don't have time for what you're saying. They don't have time to sit here.
Of course they do.
No, they don't.
They don't have time to actually go through an interview process and at first try to get guys who are under contract.
So
their plan was
do they know any of these people? Have they
Yes.
spent extra time with them?
Sure.
Have they learned what kind of scheme they're going to implement? Have they learned what kind of person they are? Have they learned what kind of culture they would implement?
I think in past relationships
have they had a chance to interact with any of these players?
Yes, Johnny Bryant has. I think he fits all the things you just described.
Johnny Bryant has, but Johnny Bryant's never coached.
Okay.
And here you have a team that's ready, and he was somewhere else last year.
Neither did Steve Kerr, neither did Nick Nurse, and you said those made sense, and those were fine.
Please stop bringing up Steve Kerr.
I have to.
But don't.
Why?
But don't.
Why?
Because that situation it doesn't work, because that situation with the Warriors was untenable. They had to fire Mark Jackson.
Well, you know what? I think Leon Rose will tell you this situation was untenable.
It wasn't
They
untenable.
had to move on from Tom Thibodeau.
No, they
They maxed out with Tom Thibodeau.
No, they didn't.
Then why else did they fire him?
Because schematically and otherwise, he just wasn't right for this team.
So there you go.
And so if you're going to decide you're going to do that, you got to have a specific individual that you're going to fire, especially if you're this far into the playoffs. And in Toronto, they knew exactly what they were doing. They had a concrete plan, and they had probably talked about it for weeks beforehand. Because as soon as Casey, they fired Dwayne Casey.
Yep. After 58, 59 wins, it was a great year.
They hired Nick Nurse because they knew that they didn't need to completely change everything. They just needed a different, newer voice. And Nick Nurse took them to a championship. The Warriors are completely different, and we all know why, and it's not even worth digging into the cesspool that Mark Jackson created for himself. The New York Knicks, though, were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They have a team that is baked, that is improved, and right now they are just searching. They have 2 weeks into the draft, and free agency is about to collapse all around them. And we don't even know who the head coach is. So it's not about not having a plan, as you keep layering onto me and others. It's about about having a specific person in mind.
I think it is almost impossible to have a specific person in mind unless you were promoting from within.
Great.
They may have wanted one of these coaches that are under contract. You can't hire them unless you get permission. They probably knew that, and now their second tier of guys, available guys, are going to be the ones they go after. That's a fine plan. I don't think that's embarrassing. I don't think that's wrong. They have to know the specific guy.
Unless it doesn't work.
What do you mean it doesn't work?
Because now you're just guessing it's going to work.
You're going to guess with whomever you hire if it's going to work.
The Raptors knew it was going to work with Nick Nurse. They knew.
Every time you hire somebody, you don't actually know if it's going to work.
Well, if you know a guy who's internal to your organization well enough to know that it's going to work and you actually win a championship, I think the evidence tells you it was correct.
So because the Knicks didn't hire someone immediately, they don't know what they're doing. I just want to get this straight.
I'm not saying they may know what they're doing. I'm just saying from my perspective, it appears that they don't have a plan. They're knocking on doors that are closed and locked and getting rejected from them. And so now what are they going to do? They're going to go, get the other. Let's get some of these retreads. Maybe they'll work. I don't have an idea of what they're going to look like in front of my player. I don't have an idea how it's going to change our culture. I don't have an idea of whether or not this has a chance to repeat where we just were. It could destroy it all. And if it does, well, at least we took a risk. At least we tried.
No. It's because they know the guy who was there wasn't the answer.
So
that's check one.
I get it. I'm not
once the
disagreeing with
Knicks
you on
make that determination, you move on and you start the process. And this process to me seems it makes sense to me. Let's go after the top guys. They said no, not surprised by it. I don't think Leon Rose is sitting there in his office stunned that the Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Houston Rockets said no. Now we go to tier 2 and we talk to guys who are available, who if we want, they'll take the job. Trust me. If they want Mike Brown, he'll take the job. If they want Johnny Bryant, he's going to take the job.
Okay.
This is a plan. It's a sensible plan. And I don't know what it is. See, I know what's going on in the national media. They just like to crap on the Knicks.
I'm not crapping on
I'm
the
not
Knicks.
saying you. I'm saying the national. Even Shams earlier today was like, oh, there's no clear path to a head coach. Like, people love to joke and make fun. So I get why they're doing it. And I kind of get why Knicks fans are doing it. You still have it in your blood that you root for a loser franchise.
No,
it's like Met fans. They still have it in their blood.
Evan, this is not a loser franchise. It's not.
I know it's not, but they still think that way.
People might still have the LOL Knicks in the back of their minds.
That's what I'm saying.
It's been almost half a decade. That's not the case. And if anyone says that, they're idiots.
Why else would you explain the constant negativity from Met and Knicks fans? They sometimes still think the worst in the teams they root for. I don't think the Knicks have done anything wrong here. They're doing a real search for a head coach.
By the way, I haven't said they've done anything wrong at all.
You've said they have no plan.
They had to fire Tom Thibodeau. I get it. But they don't have a plan for what's next.
Oh, they absolutely do. I disagree with you. I just laid out the plan. You may not like it.
They don't have an individual for who's next.
Because you don't normally have an individual.
And you don't usually fire your head coach after being 2 wins away from the NBA Finals.
And most times organizations don't realize we maxed out 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. We can answer each other with everything.
I know.
I think the circumstances are different. You're right. You are right. Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr's not the best. But your examples don't work either because this is unique in its own right. It's all unique. It's all unique.
It is unprecedented. Let's put it that way. That's what it is. It's
I understand.
Unprecedented.
It's unprecedented, but here's the bottom line.
If you're doing something unprecedented, you better do it. You better do the next steps unprecedentedly well.
Well, let's see who they end up with. But I'm not ready to assume just because they're top 3 guys who are under contract and not shockingly had their organization say no. That to me in no way proves the Knicks don't have a plan and they're a circus and they don't know what they're doing. And I take offense to it as a New York Knicks season ticket holder. I will stand up and defend them. Am I right, Tommy? You know I'm right.
You're 1,000% right.
Thank you!
What I don't like what you did, you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. I never once said they don't have a plan, and you clumped me into the BT Sal and Giannotti's of the world.
And Big Mac.
And Big Mac. I never once said the Knicks don't have a plan. What I would say, though, speaking for all the other...
Who's their next coach?
Johnny Bryant.
Okay.
I think that's always been the plan. I think I brought up the prom.
And by the way, you can't kill that. If you think Nick Nurse was such a good hire, there aren't many differences. I know Johnny left for a year to go to Cleveland, but he was with this franchise. He has relationships with these players. Like, it's that next great head coach. And I've said from the beginning, boring wins. I've said it from the moment they fired this guy, the best choice is going to be the most boring choice.
Right, so then why even bother?
Why bother? Because you shoot for the moon. If you're the Knicks and you love Johnny Bryant.
So what are you telling Johnny Bryant?
Well, that Chris Finch and Ime Udoka may be better options than you? I don't think that's deeply offensive, is it? I was the second choice for a lot of jobs. I'm not offended by it. I get it. Would you? Well, I've lived with it. Bart Scott. You know what I mean? Like, I live with it. And so I don't think that's offensive for the Knicks to say, let's go for the best. And oh, by the way, if we don't get it, Johnny B makes sense. Anyhow, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think that the other Knicks fans here, their issue here, and this is one of the big problems with the Knicks, I guess you want to call it, is you don't hear from them. We need an Al Gore in my plan. We need a Leon Rose, this is my plan. So we all have to speculate what the plan is, or we have to follow the reporters or the bouncing ball. You just don't hear anything. We're waiting for the white puff of smoke from Madison Square Garden. And there's a lot of Knicks fans, when they start hearing reports that James Dolan's involved, it's the low-hanging fruit of here we go again, which is not the case. I don't believe it is.
I think you actually make a very, very, very brilliant point, which is the reason why a lot of Knicks fans, and I don't think it comes from a bad place, but why I think, in my opinion, they're so wrong about this. Obviously, many disagree. 888-808-1019 is because there isn't leadership speaking to them. I do think that's a very good point. And that's one of those moments, in my opinion, Teak, where I think the Garden struggles because they don't speak to their fans. When they're winning, it's not a big deal. Right. I think it would help them for Leon Rose to come out and speak. and maybe help kind of put the message out there. Now, they don't care because the Knicks could say, well, we don't care. We don't care if the fans are going to scream and yell on WFAN or social media. But I do think that that's contributing to this idea that I vehemently disagree with, that the Knicks are planless and their pants are down and they don't know what they're doing. I think that contributes to it.
Right.
We'll get to your calls coming up, 888-808-1019.